To this story, the National Sea Rescue Institute today issued a sober reminder of how important it is to stay vigilant near water. It's assessed drownings between 2016 and 2021, so in other words for 5 years. It's found that more drownings occur in fresh water than in the ocean. The most vulnerable age group, the under fours. And tragic news, just today, 2 more children have died from drowning, aged just 5 and 9. The 2 girls drowned in a swimming pool at a Durban South Beach hotel. Well, I'm joined now by Jill Fortuin, Executive Director of Drowning Prevention at the NSRI. Thank you so much for your time. Such tragic news that these 2 little girls have drowned today. I suppose that just reminds you of why it's so important to understand the causes of drowning, where it happens, and how very quickly it can happen.
Definitely it does. So good evening, and my condolences to the family. That's absolutely devastating news. I have a 9-year-old myself and a 14-year-old, and I'm at a loss for words. But this research paper once again highlights the importance of supervision and vigilant supervision, as it only takes a second for a child to drown. And what we're finding from this research paper, that these drownings don't happen at the ocean necessarily, as much as it happens in and around the home, around swimming pools and in fresh water. And that's where most of these drownings are happening, amongst the 0 to 4 years of age, as well as 5 to 9 and 10 to 14. So I think, for parents, as things heat up, we're going into our summer season, our festive season, we're going to parties, be extra vigilant when you're watching your children. A simple thing like answering a cell phone or going to switch off a stove, taking your eye off the child in the bath can result in such a tragic event.
And looking at some of the numbers, it was, it's quite startling to see, as you've mentioned, that the ocean accounts for quite a small proportion of the number of drownings. Swimming pools a slightly higher proportion. I think it was over 600 deaths. But by far the biggest number of deaths, I think it was over 3,000 deaths in the 5-year period. Open bodies of water. So we're talking dams, rivers, streams.
Correct. And I think those are the areas where, one, there are no lifeguards patrolling those areas. When they are patrolling, it's sort of like not an area where people would go to. So they would go to these unsafe areas to swim. The water that they go into, they don't necessarily see that there's danger or the depth of the water. And then secondly, obviously the saltwater content keeps you afloat for a bit longer. And now you've got this dark, murky water that you're going to swim in, where there's no lifeguard patrols, there's no rescue responses, and that makes for a dangerous situation, over and above the fact that people are not able to swim, there's maybe no cell phone reception. It just adds to the risk of swimming in these unsafe bodies of water.
It was quite interesting that KwaZulu-Natal has the highest rate of drownings, followed by the Eastern Cape, which makes sense. There are a lot of people in KwaZulu-Natal, and of course there's a coastline, as there is in the Eastern Cape. But when you look at the Western Cape, the picture's very different. The numbers there are comparable to Limpopo, which of course is an inland province. So what do you make of these differences in the provinces?
So I think one could hypothesize various reasons for this. As you know, the Western Cape has an abundance of surf lifesaving clubs, National Sea Rescue Institute stations, and so it's very, very well resourced. Together with the City of Cape Town and various municipalities, it's able to respond to these rescues quite easily. However, as you move further inland and on the coast, the resources might not be as well as in the Western Cape. And then over and above that, I think one of the most important things is the fact that people's swimming ability, people's access to swimming lessons, the affordability thereof, that makes a huge difference. And then also the education. So, the NSRI spends quite a bit of money and resources investing in water safety education, and survival swimming. And this is not something we do just in the festive season. We're doing it all year round. And I think, that investment needs to happen in all 9 provinces, not just the coastal towns. And I think it's a huge wake-up call for various rescue organizations also to say, what more can we do to address this? For government to say, what more can we do to address this? Because no child should drown, and yet it's still happening.
And tragically, the numbers suggest as well, I think that's what the report has found, is that poor kids who don't come from well-resourced families, are more at risk. And of course, it makes sense because often they go to schools where there isn't a swimming pool, so they're not taught to swim, or they don't live in an area where there's a municipal pool. Talk to me about how poorer kids are more vulnerable and what we're going to do about it.
Yes, so I think there are definitely the social determinants don't just affect one's health, but it also affects one's education. It affects the risk factor, whether or not you drown or not. And I think this is what the study highlights, that all of these things adds to the different variables that puts you at risk of drowning. And so what are we doing about it? I mean, at least from the NSRI and various other life-saving organizations, are investing time and money into this area. It's not a competition to see who does the best, but it's about saving those lives and reducing the drowning burden from 1,477 drownings on average to a much lower drowning incidence in South Africa. And especially in our 0 to 4-year-olds, we're seeing something like 2,755 drownings happening every year. And we want to get involved and we want to sort of reduce this, but it takes a collective effort. It takes the Department of Education, the Department of Health, various organizations, NGOs to get involved, to spread the message, and also teach things like survival swimming and bystander CPR. These are key elements to ensure that we address the drowning problem in South Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely needs a much more concerted effort. Let me just confirm for you, when you said 1,477 drownings, is that because this was a 5-year study? Is that the average per year?
That's correct. Definitely. That's the average per year. The highest incidence of drowning was in 2021 with approximately 1,521 drownings. And so, yeah, so the average is definitely
All right.
1,477 across all age groups.
Across all age groups. And over that 5-year period, what was the total number of drownings and what was the number of drownings for children? Do you have those figures?
So the total number of drownings is in the region of 7,400 drownings, and for the 0 to 4-year age group, it's 2,755 drownings. So you can say, quite a large percentage is attributed to the 0 to 4-year age group.
That's absolutely tragic. Thank you so much for raising awareness on this key issue. That was Jill Fortuin, the NSRI's Executive Director of Drowning Prevention, telling us that over a 5-year period, 2,755 children under the age of 4 drowned. That is unacceptable and more has to be done.